Waiting for us to go live here. I think it's working. Let's give it a second to show up. Ah, I see something happening. Okay. I believe I've got everything working. I'm just going to confirm again my audio is working. We had some technical difficulties getting started. But hello, my name is Ross Shabilsky. I'm the founder of D20 Studios. And today we're going to be doing a development stream of our game Summoner's Fate. For those who aren't familiar with Summoner's Fate, it is a top-down adventure deck builder game. So a combination of a CCG with some RPG tactics in there. And we're going to be playing around with some of the editor tools I built, designing some cards, putting some new content into the game, showing off how these tools work, all kinds of fun and interesting things. I hope it's very interactive and that you guys participate in the chat channel. I'll be glancing over my other screen here to see the messages. I see T. Lark. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Excited to be doing this. First time ever streaming, so I got that going on as well. And hopefully this will go well and we'll have a good time. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and mute my audio monitor here, but if anybody should stop hearing audio for any reason, please just let me know in the text channel, and I'm going to turn that off now. All right, I'm assuming everything's working. Okay, so this is the definitions editor. This is a tool I have built to basically create everything in the game. This particular screen I'm on right now is the map editor, and I use this to both build new levels, test abilities, because it's really nice. The tool has the capability to actually load in the entire game, and then you can make real-time modifications to it, which is really cool. So people often ask, what kind of engine do you build your game in? And at this point, I just kind of say, like, yeah, it's our own engine, because this thing pretty much is its own engine. But yeah, as you can see, I can reset the level here, and if I want to go back to like the full paint mode, this lets me go ahead and design, different aspects. I can put some grass in there. I can, change up the decorations, and I think it's got undo. Yeah, I can undo all that stuff I just did. And then you can configure all your test settings, like what cards I want to test, what play settings I want to test in here. So kind of a cool thing. But I thought today we're going to start off with getting some work done. So what I want to do today is start off by implementing some cards. And there was a particular card that somebody had suggested on one of Elizagator's streams. So shout out to her and her Summoner's Sunday. Kind of inspired me, along with MCN Mike, who's also watching now. I just really enjoyed my experiences with you guys' streams, and I thought this would be kind of another cool way to bring some engagement to the community. So we're going to go ahead and find this card called the Acolyte. And he's a unit, so he's in our unit table here. Okay. And this is what this guy looks like. He's kind of, rebel-looking, almost like a Mad Max-esque style character. He's meant to be one of either the Marauders or the Dreadnoughts. I'm not quite sure, but he's evil, and he's not all-powerful. He's kind of like an aspiring evil dude. And anyway, I guess the art aesthetic kind of inspired one of the viewers on Liz's streams to come up with this idea that, when he dies, he's going to buff his allies, and then he's going to scream that kind of iconic thing from that movie. So we're kind of doing a shout to that movie, I guess, as well, with the "Witness me." So we're going to get his powers working. Right now, he doesn't actually have any powers, aside from the fact that he's got his attributes, power, and life too. But his powers right now are just purely text. So in this field here, I can edit his text, and you can see I can type anything here. I can type anything that I want, and it will show up on the card. Yay! So that's pretty cool now. But it doesn't actually give any powers, right? So we want to actually give him these abilities that he quote-unquote has. And so we're going to be doing that. All right, so downfall, visible allies get +1/+0. All right, so that's the power we're going to give him. So that's going to be something that would be triggered when he dies, right? So what we're going to do is go into the triggered abilities table, and we're going to create this new ability. Okay, so triggered abilities. Now, to help things out, because there's so many different triggers in the game, I tend to just, when I make new ones, I start off with something that already exists with that ability. So we said there was a downfall trigger, right? So we'll start with one of the existing downfall triggers and probably just clone it to make this easier for me. Okay, so I'm just going to pick the detonate one and copy it, and then we're going to call this death trigger and buff allies. Okay. Okay. So kind of walk through and explain what's happening here. All right. So it's got a new name. Let's save this, and then we'll go back to it. Buff allies. All right. Trigger event. So the first thing we're going to do is create a trigger ability, and there's basically a couple categories of triggers. The default triggers are all the types of things that can happen in the game. And then attribute triggers I have a separate list for, because whenever an attribute changes, like life, power, anything you name it, that can also create a trigger. And so there's a different list that triggers. So the tool I built is designed to make it so that when you switch to one thing, you'll see the list and everything will all dynamically update. All right, but we need trigger, and I'm just going to go back and undo that. All right, and the particular trigger we want is defeat. So when something dies, okay? And in particular, we want to define next what the conditions are. So this trigger event will fire when anything in the game dies, right? But we only want this power to apply when the acolyte dies. Oh, hey, Vaser's here. Thank you so much for hosting our stream, and I appreciate that. Good to have you here with us. Okay, so this condition here is going to set it so that the event will only trigger when the ability user is the event target. Okay. Now these parts of the programming are a little confusing, and that's why I made this little cheat sheet here. But you can see here that with a defeat event, this will kind of give you a cheat sheet of what the different things mean in the event. In this case, the activator of the event is the person that actually initiated the defeat by killing something, and the target is the unit that was defeated. Okay. And so in this case, we want the ability user. Okay, so this is the ability user of the action when this ability triggers. So this is the person who actually has this ability. And we want to make it so that when the person that dies, event target, is the ability user, this thing will trigger. And I believe that's the only condition we actually need to have. Okay, and then we can have trigger event target method is what is this trigger going to actually target for its targets, right? Because triggers can target any number of things from the events or custom things. In this case, we want to buff all the allies, so it's probably appropriate to use an action default and then create custom triggers for this here. All right, so we're going to start with the effects for it. I'm going to remove these things from the other one. Okay, and we're going to apply a buff. So we're going to do apply status effects. And the way I've got buffs configured is that they're just a status effect. We're going to make it a permanent buff, and we're going to make it, let's see, we want to find +1 +0. Okay, so you're going to see this code here, +amp +amp. I'll kind of explain what that means. Basically, this allows this to be a variable-based number, because we might want to reuse this power for somebody else, and rather than having a different status effect for +2, +1, +3, I just have one that has a variable to it, and that way we can pass in whatever we want as the value. And it makes it really easy to balance tune and adjust abilities and also reuse them. So I'm going to save that. Okay, so when this ability triggers, it's going to apply this status effect to the target. Now we have to define who the targets are. All right. Oh, long shot, but can the font size be bumped? T-Lark, I have no idea how to do that. I'll try to do my best to read things so that it's clearer. I can see if you're watching this on a phone or something, it might be a little small. Even on my monitor here, it's a little bit small, hard to read. For next time, I'll try and see if there's a way I can scale this to make it bigger. But I'm afraid if I try to do anything now, it might break something. So I'll just kind of read it out, and hopefully that'll help. All right, so I'm going to read this one. The first category I'm in is primary target method. So Summoner's Fate supports two types of targeting, primary and secondary. And the reason for that is that you may want to have either alternate targets that have different effects, or you might want to have a secondary target that plays off of some element of the first. So in an example, I'll use this on Fireball, where when you shoot somebody with a fireball, it hits the target space, but then I want to also hit all surrounding spaces. So surrounding the primary target would make it so all the targets around that space also get hit. That's just one example. Okay, so primary target method, we're going to go ahead and pick our, let's see, we're going to say any. Let's say any, okay, because it's going to be, I'm not sure if it should be visible or any for this. Do they have to witness them? So I guess they have to see him. All right, we're going to say there's going to be witnessed. In order to get the buff, you have to be able to see him. So primary target is visible, and we don't need unit or space. We just need unit. Okay. Now, if I leave this condition as is, any unit that's visible will get this buff. That includes units that aren't technically units, like bushes and trees are also considered units. The enemy units will get the buff, and we don't want that. So we're going to put some conditions in. And the first condition is going to be, I want it so that it's actually only units and not placeable. So target subject, target. And this is basically just saying the thing I want to reference. So in this case, the condition is being made against the target that's being selected. The condition is property. So whether it's not it's a unit, it's controlled by a trait. So we're going to find type unit. So all units will have a trait that defines that they're a unit. This is just a string value pair that says unit, and it has a value of 1. And we're going to say greater than or equal to number and 1. Okay, so now that will filter out all the placeable targets. I'm just checking my chat there. Okay, next thing we're going to do is add a condition for the target, and I only want to have ally units be buffed by this ability. So we're going to go ahead and do property this time, and we're going to go to the team, right? Because eventually we're going to add 2v2s and stuff like that, so it's not going to be just the same player, but anybody who's on this ally team could potentially be buffed. And we want that to be team is equal to target subject, and we're going to say ability user. Okay? So now this condition reads, the target's team is equal to the ability user. Ooh, that's wrong. The ability user's team. Okay. Target user team equals ability user team. All right. And the last thing is he probably shouldn't buff himself just because that'd be kind of weird. So we're going to do target is not equal to the ability user. Okay. So this is kind of a cool thing. What this editor is allowing me to do is effectively write programming logic, conditional statements. But there's no actual code being used here. And the reason I've designed the tool this way is because I want to allow the ability to push new content over the air as DLC content without the need to have the client necessarily update, right? And there's all kinds of benefits to that. Some point in the future, when we're not actually working on programmatic changes to the game, I would love to have streams like this where I interact with the community, we design new cards together, and then I can take and apply and push these updates directly to you, and you'll be able to just restart the game and it'll download the new definitions and those cards will be in the game and ready to play. And then we can have a live play session during the stream and try out these abilities. It's really cool. We're not going to do that today because the current build version is a higher version than the current client version. But assuming we get to a place where I'm only building content, not making code changes, that is a very real possibility. I'm just going to check my notifications here in case there's any kind of warning. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get back to making this ability. Checking the chat channel. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're doing, and I see Vaser's excited by that. And thank you. That's awesome. that's one of the things. When I say community-driven development for this game, my hope is that this is literally you guys and me working together, making new crazy powers, because that would be so much fun. Okay, so visible ally units. Now, secondary targeting, I don't think we need any secondary targeting, so we're going to turn this off. Okay, none. Okay, and I think, oh, we don't want this damage fire. That was from the old ability we copied. Okay, and we're going to leave these things on just so we have some feedback from the ability when we go to test it. All right, next thing we want to do is we want to type a description for this ability. And the reason is, again, if we want to reuse this ability, we want that to other things that take the ability to inherit its description. So give visible allies, and then I forget what my keyword is for this. There's a, what is that keyword? Let's see. I'm going to save this because I don't necessarily remember my own keywords. I have to look it up. I'm not very good at remembering all my procedures. Let's see. I need something that's got a status effect in there. Let's go to the inflict ones. I know I've got one there. There's a certain keyword that lets you access the subtype. That's what it is. Subtype will reference the description of whatever the thing is that you're creating with the effect. Okay. So give all allies subtype. And you're going to see down here I have a preview so I can actually see what the card text will look like. Give visible allies ++ +1/+1. Okay, that sounds like it's the right description. Save this ability. Okay, now we're going to go back to the units and go back to that cool little alkali here. Okay, and actually I look because I wrote the description wrong. Let's write it as this instead because I want it to match. Control C. Okay, go back to my triggered abilities and go back to, what was that one called? Buff ally. Death trigger buff allies. Okay. All right. Yeah. The reason we want to change is because it's important that we use that keyword. And I'll kind of explain how the keywords get mapped. They're kind of an interesting thing of their own. Downfall, visible allies get +1/+1. Okay, now that matches how that card description should read. Now we're going to go back. We're back to units. We'll go back to the Acolyte. Okay, downfall, visible allies get +1/+0. Okay, so remember, he doesn't have the ability yet. We're going to get rid of this preview placeholder text I put in there. Delete that. We're going to keep his flavor text in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and add his triggered ability, which is going to be death trigger buff allies. Okay? And then we're going to add that. Now, here's why I put in that variable number. Okay? Let's say we want to change him to, instead of giving +1/+1, they really liked witnessing him, and now we're going to give him +2/+2 instead. And notice that the text trigger here updated. By designing it this way, the ability becomes very flexible. Ideally, I want to reuse mechanics so that it minimizes the chance that something breaks and that the power always works consistently, but we can crank it up and have different amplitude values. That's why I use the word amp. It's a shortage for that, but it's kind of like we're going to crank it up or crank it down. And so that's why those numbers are in there instead of hard-coded values, because I want to control that directly here. Okay, so now you can see that after I put the ability in, the card text automatically populates. This is another great benefit because when we go to localize this for different languages, instead of having to translate it and have hard-coded text on every single card, which makes it really sticky if you need to change things or wording later, now it will just inherit from the base ability description. And I can just add abilities, and I'll know that the text describing the ability is consistent with that ability. So kind of a cool thing there. Okay, some other things to note here. We've got his type tagged. He's a Marauder in this case. And that's just so that other abilities and cards that would use Marauder effects, like the Marauder Warlord, can trigger off of him. And his attributes, power, and life are also controlled here. And these will also dynamically update on the card as you change them. So everything's a nice live preview to it. Okay. All right. Now that we've got his power in there, we're going to go ahead and test it and verify that it's actually working. So I'm going to save this. Okay. And then we're going to go back into the maps, and I'm going to load up a test game. Okay. So we're just going to pick this dungeon level here. And I always have weird characters in these things because I'm testing all kinds of strange things. So we're just going to pick him as a guardian here, and I'm going to go to the Acolyte and start game. Okay, so now he's on my team. There he is. Another way we could put him on the board is we can also just go into units, and I could just drop him here. It's a little harder because I don't know what his picture is in reference to this thing. There he is. But I could also plop him on the board that way. And if I gave him a team, made him mine, and then go back to test, I think he's on my team now. Yeah, now he's alive. All right, so there's some Acolytes. Let's go and have him die so they can witness him. No, kill him. Oh, that's right, he's out of attacks. Kill him! Boom! That was a pretty epic witness, but you can see everybody got buff +1/+1. There's the status effect. Okay? So that worked. Kind of a weird effect that they did that fireball explosion, but I guess that's what I had left on there. Actually, it was kind of cool. Let's try that again. Witness me! Kind of weird. Okay, but it worked. All right, let's check one more thing. I want to make sure that it works if we put some walls in there, because he's not supposed to be able to do it if he... let's undo that. If there's not line of sight to him. So let's make it so that only the gladiator can see him. All right, so now I'm going to go back to test. And you can see I've got my line of sight is dynamically adjusting for these things. So from here, the Ice Queen and the other Acolyte can't see him, so there's no buff for them. Let's see if just the gladiator gets the buff. And there you go. So kind of a cool thing. You know, we made a new ability. We were able to test it right in game in the engine, and I can verify with certainty that this works. Now to put this in the game, all I have to do is drop the definitions file into the game's asset folder, or upload it to the DLC folder on the server. And the next time you would boot up the game, the DLC manifest would detect, hey, there's an update. Download this thing. And you would see these new cards inside the game with you. Okay, but let's have some fun because that VFX looked a little weird. We know we got the logic working, but it's not quite ready as an ability yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some custom audio for this guy. Okay, and hopefully the audio recording will work in conjunction with my speakers here. Okay, so I've got audio recording. Let's see if this is going to work. I don't know. Why doesn't this thing do anything? Uh-oh. Come on, QuickTime. Oh, there we go. All right. I think it's working. Okay. We're going to record a sound. Get ready for this, guys. You ready? Okay. Witness me! Witness me! Sound like a creepy acolyte voice to you guys? Okay. We're going to go ahead and save that. Witness me. It's kind of fun. It may surprise some of you. I'm not an audio talent by any means, but I do a lot of my own audio work inside the game for fun. The sad puppy growl, that's me. Okay, so we got this done, but that audio file's probably got a lot of artifacts and stuff. So what we're going to do is clean up in Audition. And I'm going to go to Open. Okay, and here's Witness Me. Vaser, I got chills. All right, open this up. Ooh, actually, looking at that, that's a bad sample. I went too loud with it. Let's try one more because I don't want to have clipping inside the asset. All right, we get to do it again. Witness me. I think I was still clipping. One more time. Witness me. Witness me. You know what? I like the first one better. All right, let's just get it done. All right. Witness me. Okay, so there's a couple problems. We got that bup at the end from the mic shutting off. We're going to get rid of that. Ew, that's a nasty sound. Okay, delete that. And then, still got a little piece of that in there. Get out of there. Not the most precise way to do this. There we go. Okay. And then I'm sure I've got a little bit of click at the beginning too. Yep. So we're going to get rid of that. Okay. Okay. And now we're going to get rid of this. And just so that it's nice and tapered, I'm going to do a little bit of a fade-in transition there. Is that the fade-in? Yeah. Okay, just a little bit of a fade out. And then we're going to do a little bit of a fade in over here. And that just cleans up my sloppy recording. Ah! There we go. Hey! It's login error. Thank you so much for joining the stream, man. Glad to have you here with us. We are recording some audio right now for the Acolyte's ability. He's a new character we're making. He was inspired by an idea from one of the viewers of the Summoner's Sunday. And I've just finished cleaning up this audio file. It's good to go. So we're going to save this guy. And I like to save all the audio files in 44.1 hertz. Save it. It is a mono file. That's fine. Okay, Witness Me, desktop. Okay. And I'm going to save that. Okay, so I always keep the source wave because then I can use the audio in different ways, but we're gonna dynamically input this using my DLC method because I don't want to have to recompile anything. So what I'm gonna do now is export this as an MP3 file. Okay, and I want it to be just Witness Me MP3. And for MP3 audios, God, that's way too high. We don't need it that big. We want these small, lightweight. 96 kbs. It will sound flawless at that rate. Always use that setting. And desktop. Yeah, that's sounds good. Okay. Yes. Okay. We have our audio file made. Now we need to go ahead and drop it into a folder that can be used by the definitions editor, right? So close all these old ones down. Don't need that. I don't need that. All right, and I'm going to go and drop that in the proper folder here. I'll leave that alone. I don't want to touch that. Okay, Witness Me MP3. Okay, application support. All right, and the definition editor is just working off of its own local storage. So kind of like the game, the way the DLC will work, it'll have a little folder for you that the game creates in its profile. And when it has to download new content, that content, it'll only download content that's changed. So it's very selective. It won't download the entire game again. It'll just download whatever pieces are new. The way that works is I have this little manifest file, right? It's pretty handy. And it has definitions of all the different assets the game uses, and I can version each one specifically so that if there's changes to it, it'll update just that version. But what we're going to do for now is just go ahead and drop this guy in the audio folder. I have two ways of using sound effects in the game. One way is embedding them directly. Oh, hey, real quick, I'm going to answer some questions. I'm witnessing. What are you building that sound in? I recorded that sound effect in QuickTime using just my headset microphone. And then I went into a program called Adobe Audition. It's part of the Creative Suite, and I just cleaned it up. Typically, when I record things, I have a little bit of a pop tendency in the beginning when I first open my mouth, so I usually delete that. And then the last part is usually the click at the end when the mic stops detecting. So I just delete those and do a little fade transition to make it nice and smooth. Okay, so we've got the audio in the audio folder, right? And now I should be able to go ahead and use it directly inside the program. So we're going to go back to that ability here, triggered abilities, and I'm going to go to that death trigger, buff allies. Okay, so it was Burning Torch. Now it's going to be Witness Me. It's going to blow your guys' mind. Just watch this. It's going to be so much more fun now. Okay, let's go ahead and be witnessed. Die. Hey! He wasn't witnessed. Did I not spell it right? Let's see. Let's verify. Witness me. That should have worked. Thinking about this. Why didn't that work? Witness me. Let's verify this audio actually plays. Is that the right audio? Let's just check again. Open with QuickTime. Okay, that should have worked. Witness me. Did I not save it? Alright, go back. Let's double check I did everything right. Death trigger again. Death trigger buff allies. Witness me. Oh, I see why. That's the charge sound. We need the cast sound. Okay. All right, and then let's get rid of this goofy fireball thing happening. We don't want that. Okay. Not that that's not cool, but hey. All right. Now we should be able to witness him. Let's do this! Witness me! There it is. Probably the timing's a little off. Witness me! And that's just due to the fact that the cast sound effect plays at the last moment of the impact there. Witness me! Witness me! And did it buff the allies? I don't know if I saw the buff on the allies. Let's double check that. Yeah, it did. Okay, so there we go. We got him programmed. He's now in the game, and he does Witness Me. Witness me! The sacrifice is complete! Yay! All right, so we made a card. That's pretty cool. Okay, and that's how it's done. So I'm gonna give you guys a chance now. That was kind of my to-do example. I wanted to get that out of the way and get him finished. Does anybody have a card idea? In fact, let's be more specific, because I don't have the ability to make new assets. I'm not an artist, so if you're going to suggest weird new types of creatures I don't have, probably won't be able to get that built unless we're using other assets. So let's take a look at some of these existing cards in the game that have not yet been implemented. And we're going to do it here so it's a little easier to view it. So what I did, and just in case anyone else wants to do this in the game and look through on their own, if you change the search parameter to @ stands for attribute, card status, all lowercase, is an attribute of the cards you can search by, and equals 1, right? 2 would be all the cards that are functional in the game and that work. And if I had a 3, those would be all the cards that are fully done and have all the sound effects final. As you can see, I consider nothing in the game final yet, because we're going to still do another final VFX sound effects pass. But my goal for right now is to get as many cards at a playable state. All right, so we're going to go back to 1 and look at all the cards that aren't done yet. So these are some of the cards in the game that currently do not have any kind of powers. Some of them may have powers listed but be non-functional. So if anyone has thoughts on a card they would like having a power idea for, they'd like to see me get it hooked up, or a card they like the idea of but they would like to see it available in the next game, like here's one. This one's pretty easy to implement. Deal 5 psychic damage to enemy summoner. That one we have everything in the definition that are ready to program this. It just needs to be built. So we could do that one. I'm going to watch the channel. Okay, unstable magic. Fires a thing that does damage and also bounces to the nearest character of either side, then does that damage again. Okay, I'm trying to picture in my head how that would work. Fires a thing that does damage. Okay, that we can do. And also bounces to the nearest character. Yes, and then does that damage again. So kind of like a chain lightning. Okay, that sounds like a chain lightning. Let's see. We have this card. And I had it linked in a really weird way. This is not really a chain. That was my cheat way of doing it. All right, I'm going to accept clever name already taken challenge here. I don't know that I've got the ability to build this in the game, but I think I've got enough weird things that we can stitch together. So we're going to take this as a special programming challenge. We're going to attempt to make a chain lightning. It's going to hit one character, bounce to the closest, and I'm not sure how many of these events it'll fire, but we're going to attempt to do it. So what we have in that example is effectively a series of different things that we need to have happen. And I think in my mind the way I'm picturing this working is similar to how I've implemented the Arcane Missile spell. I'm going to show you that spell and how it currently works in game so you get a sense of where my mind is going with this. Because this thing kind of gives you all the pieces, and in some cases when I create new abilities I have to do programming. And if we have to do some programming, we can certainly give that a shot. But if we can do it with everything we have in the definitions editor, all the better. So first thing I'm going to do is I like to have a test deck that's got something in there. So let's just, where's it? I think I have one I already had in the mind controller. Let's see, mind control, where's that Seeker Missiles one that was testing? Do I have one that's got Seeker in it? All right, let's just make this the Seeker Missile. I'm going to call this the Chain Lightning Test. Okay. Change this to Seeker Barrage. Update. Change that to Seeker Missile. Change this to Spell Chain Lightning. And I'm just doing this now so I have a way to quickly test these spells. This is basically like the definitions that are equivalent of building a deck inside the game. What's that spell called? Chain Lightning, which is non-functional right now. Wonderful. Okay, save that maybe. Okay, let's go back to maps. Okay. Test. Chain Lightning test. Okay. So this is a new spell I was working on, and I'll kind of explain why I think this will be the appropriate way to build the Chain Lightning spell. Alright, this one does 3 damage to all enemies anywhere on the board. That's actually not what it does. What this does is it fires a series of 3 missiles at the closest enemies on the board. But what it's actually going to do, I'm going to just demonstrate it. It's a very gratifying spell to play because of that nice little drop, pop, and hit all the characters. But what's really fun about it is if I turn off these other characters, right, you're going to see something cool happen with it. Okay, so none and none. Okay, and then we're going to hit start game again, so there's just one character. Okay, so normally a spell in the game like a meteor shower would just fire 1 meteor at the troll, but this spell is guaranteed to fire 3 missiles. And since he's the closest thing, he takes all of the missiles, which makes that spell really fun. And what's different about the way this spell is working is that when it casts the spell, it actually fires a series of unique actions. So it's technically, you're casting 3 actually unique spells with it, and that's how it's able to both target the same character twice, And the other cool thing with that is if you had like a damage protect effect, like the first missile will get protected, but the next two fired at him, he'd still take damage for that. Nice impact effects. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's kind of a fun little thing, that little screen shake there. There's all kinds of little things we've been slowly adding to the game. And that's one of the things we can build with the VFX. Incidentally, VFX are another thing that we can build in the tool here. I'm going to show you that real quick too, because I like to jump around. We're showing off cool things. Where's my particles? Particles. Yeah, here's the arcane missiles, right? So even the VFX are something that's designed in the game. You would think this would be a massive, major, huge asset, and we'd have to have all these special things for it. And nope, it's engineer art. Engineer art that I've created with this tool. Typically, I'll start with some kind of base. I have a neat little program on here called Particle Designer. It's a free Mac OS, or sorry, not free. It's an $80 Mac OS program. But what's nice about it is it has a whole library of these VFX. So I kind of just built a way to modify the files imported from that, so I can kind of create them and design them in the game. But you can change everything here, like max particles or I don't know, start size, and these things could take a long time to play with because I don't necessarily understand how it all works. I just have the sliders and kind of play with it. But like colors, you make a green ball now instead, like maybe it's mana now. You know, these things. What was the reason? It's duration, I think, is the. No, it's lifespan. This is the thing that makes it look like it's more trailer now. Oh, see, now I get a totally different effect with that. That's VFX. The actual spell effects themselves, though, are still programmed in the game. I have to write special algorithms to control things like the speed of the projectile, the type of effect it's using. My goal is that at some point in the future, I want to actually migrate all of the spell VFX editing entirely in the game, so I can simultaneously create the different effects and actually preview those in the same way. Because when you're making VFX, you need like a lot of touch and hands-on feel to it. So like the fireballs, for example, it's not just one VFX, it's a series of different things that are happening with fireballs. Like here's a fireball. I'm not sure how these combine together, but there's one VFX is the fireball base. There's the explosion part of the fireball that happens. There is the, what's the other things with the fireball? I'm looking for the one that says normal. Here we go. Well, this isn't the exact one, but sometimes when I use just the VFX one layer by itself, it's not very visible, especially on maps of similar color. So I tend to use like a base behind it that gives you more of the smoke, or like Dragonfire. Here's a great example. Here's Dragonfire. If I were to put that in the game by itself, it would look cool, but you wouldn't necessarily feel the... It would be kind of almost ghostly or transparent looking, so I'll layer that with something like this that gives you the black and the dark smoke, so it looks more, you know, solid coming out of the dragon. Anyway, that's the VFX, so that's something else that the tool builds. All right, now, so we're going to go ahead and look at that spell, and I'll kind of show you how that barrage works, and then we'll see if we can get Chain Lightning to work in a similar fashion. It's going to be tricky, I think, but we're going to try. All right, Secret Barrage. All right, so what Secret Barrage is doing is its effect is to use the spell Seeker Missile, okay? And the way it's doing it is it's basically, in this case, I have, in any case, typically a primary target count is always 1. That's the thing you drop your thing on. And usually any secondary targets are automatically determined based off of some condition. But because of the drag and drop nature of cards, you're always dragging and dropping onto one thing. You can't have multiple targets. But in this case, it's an auto-designated target because it's not targeted based off of who you pick, but rather the rules. In this case, it's going to fire 3 missiles at the closest. And you can see here that there's a little confusing with the wording. Primary target random. This is actually, I was going to have random targeting at some point in the game, and I decided I didn't really need the random. I just needed a way to automatically acquire targets of a certain number. And so I just had to give it a method. In this case, closest is going to literally start counting from the closest targets to your summoner and then loop back around. So if there's 2 targets on the board, it's going to pick the first closest one, then the next closest, and then if there's no other targets left, it'll loop back to the first one. And that's how this spell would work. Cool to see how you tackled it. Thank you. I've seen Lightning games that use particles for magic run into the problem where there's no contrast with the particle of the map. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and when you put things in the game, it gives you that perspective, and so you kind of then go back and have a chance to look at how to solve that. Okay. All right. So the way I'm thinking this chain lightning could work, and kind of, I'm going to go back to your original effects here. Fire is a thing that does damage, so that's pretty straightforward. We're going to fire, in this case, we'll fire a lightning bolt, and then it's going to bounce to the nearest character, right? So we're actually going to have kind of two distinct actions with that. One's going to be firing the lightning bolt, and then the other one is going to fire an automatic lightning bolt at the closest target. I'm trying to think how that's going to actually happen. It's almost like, how is that going to do that? It's going to have it shoot a lightning bolt from the closest target. This is going to be fun. Okay, let's start with getting the lightning bolt to work. So let's get that going. We're going to go to chain lightning here. That's the card we're going to use for this. Chain lightning. Why am I not seeing chain lightning in my list? I really need to build my search thing in here so I can just like type it in and find it. I don't know why I'm blind. There it is. Okay, and it looks like I was testing something else in here, so we're going to get rid of all this stuff. Okay. Okay, and so what it's going to do is shoot a chain lightning at something. So, thinking how we're going to do that. Okay, new. Do we want to do this as use the lightning bolt on something, or do we want to do it as a just deal damage and then apply a status effect that's going to tell it to then go ahead and shoot the closest from that target? Because I need to have a way for it to know that the second bolt coming off is going to target the next closest thing. And we're also going to have a way to control like how many jumps it has, right? Okay, so in my head I'm thinking it shoots the bolt. That new target is now the reference point from where the bolt's going to latch off of. And currently there exists no programmatic way to do this with existing targeting methods. So the way I think we could do it is to have it shoot the bolt. Yeah, status effect combination could be forked more than once. Yes, absolutely. So it's going to shoot a character. It's going to apply a status effect on that character. And what the status effect is going to do is have a triggered ability that just does a really quick thing. When the status effect is applied, it's going to trigger a second lightning bolt to occur, and then it's going to remove the status effect. So from a player perspective, you won't actually see the status effect ever on the character because it's going to happen like that. It's going to zap them, hit him with the status effect. The status effect is going to say, shoot lightning out of me onto something else. And then that lightning bolt can then jump to the next target, which then infects him with the lightning bolt and so forth and goes on. And then we just need a way to have it count down so it doesn't jump forever, because that would be maybe a bit OP. All right, so let's try it. Let's try it that way. We're going to go ahead and first give him the lightning bolt. So we want this spell to actually go ahead and damage a character, right? So I'm going to go ahead and set the action effect type to subtract from attribute. That's how we do damage. Subtract from attribute. And then we're going to say life remaining. Where's life? Yep, life remaining. And how much damage is it going to do? So 3? All right, 3. 3. Okay. All right. This ability description is no longer correct. So we're going to say deal, and I'm going to put that magical word in there again, amp. And you notice how the amp automatically converted to a 3 because that's the value in here. This is another benefit of not hard typing descriptions, because if I change the ability, I want the text always consistent. So deal 3 damage to target enemy. That's the first thing it's going to do. Okay. And then it's going to bounce off the target. I'm not sure how to describe this ability yet, but let's just start with that. Deal 3 damage to target enemy. And then fork damage to another unit. I don't know. We'll come back and describe that later, but that's what it's going to do. All right. So we got this in there. Save that. Okay. We're going to have to apply a status effect, but we have to create that status effect first. Let's get the lightning working first. So I have a lightning bolt animation already, and I'm just going to try to remember what it was. Okay. Now we got this. I'm going to copy these things down. This is my little to-do list. I like to just have this scratch pad handy for doing things like this, copying files, taking notes. Whenever we're chatting on Discord, I always write down stuff, so you can see like I got my long list of fun Discord card abilities that I'll share and keep in here. And I track all this stuff. So at some point it gets filed and sorted, but when I'm just kind of working on the fly, I just like to have these notepads handy because it's super easy to create new notes and jot things down. Okay, so this is the charge. The sound effect is kind of like when they're charging it up, and then the animation's got the sound effects built in. So I'm going to go back to chain lightning. Chain lightning. Okay. Okay, and then give it charge is that, and lightning bolt is that. Okay, so now it will function as a cast spell. It's got an animation. It's got charge. Save that. Okay, we did not determine any targeting right now. Right now, this will target any unit on the board anywhere. There's no specific targeting. So I say probably want that to be visible, yes. And we probably don't want to target allies, so let's go ahead and target subject, target. And we're going to go to team for that, property. Team is not equal to target subject, ability user, property, team. Okay, so that will target enemies. Do we want the chain lightning to shoot objects? I'm going to say no, just to keep it simple. Unless anyone has an opinion. Does it destroy other things beyond units? Can this hop from bushes? That would be kind of weird. I'm going to go with no. Sorry. Target subject, target, trait. So it has to be of type unit. Only units and not... We call the obstacles, my technical term from the game is called placeable. I know it's kind of a lame term, but there's units. Technically, everything that's on the game board from the game's perspective is a unit. But then design-wise, I distinguish them as units are characters that move around and do stuff, and then placeables are like trees and furniture. So there's a special tag for those that we use. So type unit or type placeable. Greater than or equal to number 1. Cool. All right, so I can only target units. They are visible units, and it's going to shoot a lightning bolt at them and deal 3 damage. Probably not unless it bounces like a whole bunch of times. Yeah, I agreed. Okay, so now let's go ahead and we're going to go and maps. Procedural 2. Test. Oh, cool. We have an object to test it with, too. All right, so I can't shoot that. I can shoot him. There we go. We got a lightning bolt. It's done 3 damage. But it's not very exciting as a chain lightning spell yet, but at least we've confirmed the first part works. This is how I like to develop. Do one step at a time. Feels like you're making progress, if anything, and it also gives you a way to eliminate where your problems are at if you test along the way. I'm very test-driven. I like hands-on. That's another reason this tool exists, is because I like to see immediate results. The thought of having to wait 20 minutes to compile something and trust that my code worked would drive me insane, because I'm just not that good to model everything in my head in one go. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is create a way to bounce and arc another bolt onto something else. And the way we can do that is through a status effect. We're going to create a status effect that's going to trigger this thing. Okay. Taking a deep breath here because this is a little bit overwhelming. I like the component model that spells are constructed of. Thank you. I like components as well. I'm glad to have another developer here that can appreciate the technical terms of the engineering practices we're using. So in this case, component property is just a drop-in property of an object rather than having to have it inherit from an extensive class. The class, I actually use a combination of inheritance and component-based development. All of the objects inherit from a base class called attribute holder, which is just a way of controlling and storing name-value pairs for different traits or attributes, which are just a string and a value. And then all the powers and actions are components that just drop into those buckets. Okay, so we're going to create a new status effect, and I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. I'm thinking if I have an existing status effect that triggers something on... You know what, let's just make a whole new one. That's the best way to do this. Okay, we're going to call this status effect just chain lightning. Chain lightning, okay. Okay, and this is the cool property. If I don't put a description in a status effect, it actually will never show up on the card as a status effect. And I don't really need to worry too much about anything else, like its animation doesn't need any kind of animation, doesn't need sound effects. It's just going to need to store some abilities for when it does stuff. Okay. And it may need to have some traits. We'll come back to that. But let's just start with getting the lightning to arc first. Okay. So save that. Okay. Now we are going to need to create a triggered ability that does something when that status effect is applied. Okay. Triggered effect. All right. So trying to think if I have got anything. This is where I want to look for something that's got an existing on effects, because I'm just trying to remember the event. Thinking. What does something when it's applied to you? Is counterspell one where I do that? All right. Let's just try to do it following the drop downs. Chain lightning on affix. Okay. So we need a trigger event. The trigger event's going to be a fixed status. So when this status effect applied, it's going to do something. Okay. And who is it going to target? We're going to need more extensive targeting, so we're going to do action default. Okay. Now we only want this status effect to trigger we need conditions, because otherwise it's going to trigger whenever a status effect is put on. We don't want that. Trigger when trigger subject. Okay. Activator is status effect. Activator is a status effect. So trigger. Event activator is the ability source. The unit or status effect this triggered ability is attached to. This is why I need the cheat sheets, because I cannot remember how these things map together without them. This is so helpful. Like these things all tell me what to do. Okay, so I need it so that the trigger subject, okay, in this case the activator, the status effect being applied, okay, is equal to the source. The unit or status effect this triggered ability is attached to. Remember, we're going to attach this triggered ability to that status effect. So trigger subject, ability source. Okay, so that will limit this from triggering all the time. Only when this status effect is put onto something is it going to do that. Okay, and I'm going to save this. And unfortunately, that's kind of a weird limitation. I have to go back and now find it on the list here to go back and save it. All right, Odin Kong. What engine is this? I want to see more of this, but I have to go. Oh, I'm sorry, Odin. This engine is the D20 Studios definition editor. This is the tool set that we use to create all of the content, the logic, the maps, the VFX, the characters, the spells, everything that you see content-wise in Summoner's Fate. Sorry you have to go. I'll definitely share the link to this video again later, and I hope to do more of these streams. So if you got other questions before you leave, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I'm going to continue on with building this effect. All right, so chain lightning on effects. We've got it set up to trigger correctly. And now we need to do something. And the thing we want to do is to lightning bolt something. So we're going to go ahead and give it that lightning bolt again. So subtract from attribute. Life remaining. And I want it to be 3. Subtract from attribute life remaining by 3. Okay. And then primary target method. Okay, this is where we get to use that new targeting method I told you about before. All right. I would assume the target has to be visible to it at least. We need to have the target subject be on the same team. Remember, in this case, it's already on the enemy, and we want it to bounce to people of the same team. Unless you want it to bounce to allies as well. Clever name. Any preference? I assume you want this to bounce to just enemies, correct? Not allies, because that would not be very fun. Or maybe it would be. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and make it allies for now, in case, unless you tell me otherwise. Property team equal to target subject ability user team. And we don't want it to bounce to placeables. Actually, you know what? This is okay, and I'll tell you why. Because there's going to be some placeable types that maybe we would want to bounce to. Like we got a card called the Dragon Whelp that's going to be summoned by putting an egg on the board, and when the egg breaks, it pops the dragon out. So maybe this could be a fun way to break the egg open. I don't know. We'll leave it as that for now. Target visible unit. Now, what we do need to do here is apply our closest algorithm, and this is where we could have it fork as well, but we're going to just use one primary target, and it's going to target closest. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. I may have to do some code adaptions because I do not believe closest will trigger an auto-designate target if the primary target count is 1. I may have to make a special condition for this. We'll test it and see, but I may have to do a code change in order to make this work, and I'll explain why in a minute. But the closest was always intended to work with multiple targets, not with a singular target. It could go either way, so you don't want to use it next to your dudes. Yeah, okay. We'll work with just the same team for now, but we could definitely tune it. So we may have to make a code change just to support the auto targeting of closest, because I don't know that this will function with just a target count of 1. We'll try it. Okay. All right, so that's the first thing. Now, the other thing we need to make sure we do with the status effect is we need to remove the status effect right away. We don't want to have this status effect stick around on the board. So remove status effect. And how am I going to get that to remove this target status effect? Okay. Let's see here. Ross is thinking. Aha! Actually, I know how to do this. Okay, we're gonna target the ability source as the action. So when this triggers, it's gonna actually target the status effect. Okay, this is gonna be kind of weird, but that's gonna become. We only want this to work on the primary target. All right, so the primary target of this effect is going to be the actual status effect. So as soon as the status effect is placed, it's going to trigger this ability. The target's going to be the source, which is the status effect itself, and then it's going to remove itself from the character. But then we're going to have a secondary target method. So let's just leave this as any, and let's keep the type of this to be status effect so we know that this is, get rid of that. This is none. Okay, this is how we're going to get to work. All right, so then the next one's going to be, I want visible closest 1. There we go. Now we don't have to do any coding. And it's going to take care of our other problem. Target subject, target, property, team, equal to, target subject, ability user, property, team. Okay? All right. I'm going to read it out loud again. That's a clever way to do it. Or make a different version. Overcharged lightning does more damage but targets everything. Okay, so reading our ability out loud, we've got trigger event. When this status effect is affixed, it will only apply trigger if it's the status effect with the ability being applied. It's going to target itself, the actual status effect. It's going to remove itself. I need this to be secondary target, otherwise it's going to yell at me. Okay, it's going to remove the status effect. It's going to subtract 3 damage on the secondary target. And the other thing we want to do is apply our sound effects stuff. So let's go ahead and put this back in there. In this case, we just need the lightning bolt. So it should shoot a lightning bolt to the next target that's closest. Okay. Save that. Go back to status effects. Go back to chain lightning. And now we're going to give the status effect chain lightning and the triggered abilities. Wait, hold on. Yeah, triggered ability. Chain lightning. Chain lightning. Okay. Add. Now, probably what I should be doing instead of using hard-coded numbers is passing in the values so we can make different multitudes of chain lightning, but we'll come back and fix that later. Let's just see if this works. Okay, and save. Okay, and then we need to go back to the original spell, chain lightning. That's why I said you gave me a hard one. This is a hard one because of all the different dependencies on it. Okay, so now we need to just apply that status effect. And See, this is why, because what we could do is eventually control how much damage that fork does with that value, but we'll get that adjusted next. Let's just see if this works. Save. Okay, the moment of truth. It's the moment of truth. I don't know why I'm looking over there at you when the camera's here, but I have my chat over there, so let's give this a shot. Test. All right, and we need to give him another unit so we have something to bounce off of. Let's shoot at the witness me guy. Okay, here we go. Witness me. Interesting. So, what happened here? Let's dissect that. It shot at the closest thing, which technically was itself in this case, I guess. I guess it interpreted. We need to make sure the condition is that the target it goes closest to is not the ability user, and that should have it bounce to the troll. So let's go back and fix that. Triggered abilities. And this is why I said I like to test things, because I would not have anticipated that off the cuff. Chain lightning. Okay, so all we need to do is add a condition. Target subject. Target is not equal to target subject ability user, and now that should stop him from forking to him. Okay. All right, maps. Test. Okay, start game, and here we go. Aha! It worked, but the effect didn't travel over. But it kind of did what we wanted it to, which is cool. All right, let's just... Not sure why the VFX didn't travel over. It looks like the VFX... I know why it's doing that. Because the lightning bolt animation is designed to trigger the... trigger against the primary target, not the secondary. So we're going to have to... We're going to have to create a special animation to handle that weird case. If the primary target had been this guy, it would have worked. But it's that weird secondary condition we're doing there. Alright. That's okay. Let's go back and see if we can fix it without having to do any coding. I'm going to go back to triggered abilities. And go back to chain lightning again. So if we had a way to remove this status effect without having to rely on this thing here, then we could still have the visible target be that character. I'm trying to think how we could do that. But then we have the problem of the closest won't work because the closest is not designed to work with that. So yeah, we probably need to adjust that animation. I'll mute my phone. Okay, so we got the chain lightning working, but we don't have that effect doing its thing. Okay. All right, let's go make let's do some coding. Yeah! HM lightning bolt animation. Okay, so the reason we have this issue is because of... Where's that property? I'm sure it's in here. Where are you, property? Maybe it's the default property. There's a specific property I built into this thing that controls what type of animation it is. Let's look at what it inherits from. Blast. This is the problem. This blast animation only targets against the first target. We would need a version of this that's going to target not the blast, but what's my other types of this I can have? Solo and rain. Solo. Maybe that one's the one that would work. I'm not sure which type it needs to be, but let's start off by creating a new version of this. So I'll go back to animations. Spell animations. Okay. All right, let's create a copy of Lightning Bolt. We're going to call this Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning animation. I could type correctly. Okay. Chain Lightning animation. Okay. And I don't care about any of this stuff because we're just going to extend Lightning Bolt. I want everything else to work the same. The only difference is that I want to have the one attribute be different. So let's get rid of all this code. Get rid of the code. I'm sure there's an easier way for me to have done this, but get rid of all that. Go away. Goodbye, code. Okay, so the only difference is that we need to have it do okay, that animation type. Let's try the solo one. I'm not quite sure if that's the right one, but I want to at least get it to show the bolt crossing over to him, and that should, I think, arc it to the next character. And let's fix that. Clean up all this garbage. Like things nice and neat. Okay. Get out of here, you. Yeah, easiest to fix the animation. When the logic's working, I go for fixing the view because I'd rather have the game function than to have the animation work. Important aside to that. Oh, I just called this the wrong thing. There. Okay. Everything in Summoner's Fate is built with an MVC architecture, meaning that the game logic is completely separate from the view system. That's how the AI is able to run and determine all the game calculations without having to worry about animating all those effects. The first game I made, I didn't know about MVC, so everything was coupled, which made things a nightmare to do. If you're developing a game, I highly recommend the MVC because not only does it give you this host of amazing benefits, but at some point, if you need to transfer over to another programming language or whatnot, typically all the logic can be reused, and you just rewrite the renderers or the animations to match whatever new platform or engine you're building. So at some point in the future, we've got to use Unity instead of Flash or some other type of thing. I feel good about our ability to transport over because of that separation of those things. Okay, I've got the new animation made, but I need to bootstrap it in. So we're going to go to Bootstrap, Assets. Unfortunately, like I said, until I get the spells built as definitions, they have to be manually coded in here. So this is just going to make it so that it tells it to compile with it because nothing programmatically is otherwise referencing this class, so it won't compile unless I add it here. Okay, so now it's in the game. It's in the game. It will function just like let's see. The thing that I build in my game uses MVC, my view as a web page. Yes, exactly. It makes things much easier to work with when I can build a UI using stuff like CSS instead of GUI libraries. Exactly. Smart way to develop. Okay, we got our chain animation in. It's just like the lightning bolt, except we changed this one property, which I'm just going to take a wild guess is the one we need just to get this to show for the stream. And now we have to recompile in order for this to take effect so it's accessible to us. So we're going to rebuild the definition editor. I'm just looking through and making sure I don't need anything else first. I think that's it. So let's go ahead. I want to just copy this because we're going to need that later in a second. Okay, so we're all done with this. Close him down. We're going to rebuild it. So here's my compiler. We're going to publish it. Yeah. Instantly. So this is the actual. I code everything with Flash Builder, and then I do all of my application publishing through Animate. And the reason for that is Animate is awesome about organizing assets, and it's just a better project manager as far as publishing, debugging, exporting. I always have trouble getting that stuff set up with Flash Builder. Like the project builds always get dirty and then they don't work or they give you inconsistent results. This always compiles it correctly. So I like to use this. And then all my GUI and stuff are laid out here. And I designed all these little components that are nice. I can just drag and drop them and lay them out however I want and build these menu structures like that. But we're ready to go. So we're just going to refire that. Okay, and all we got to do now is go into our triggered abilities again and change that animation for chain lightning to be the one we want. Paste. Chain lightning. Okay, so now My guess is what will happen is because it'll fire 2 bolts, one back on the first target and then one on the second target, is what I think that solo does. But I could be wrong. No, it still didn't work. It looks like it fired 2 bolts, but it's still stuck on that guy. Okay. Okay, that's not to worry. That's not to worry. All we have to do now is just create a new type of targeting that will respect the secondary target as the positioning for that effect. Real quick though, let's just see if I can, without having to code that, let's just test. I'm going to change this to rain instead. I know one of these is going to fire multiple targets, so let's just see if that's the one. Okay, when you say you have to rebuild the definition editor, is the definition editor the same binary as the final exported game? No. The definition editor is more than that. It uses the same source code as the game, and the definition editor also has a different set of assets. So it's kind of like the game plus friends, I guess. The entire game is compiled when the definition editor compiles, and that's nested in there. Although the game functions slightly different because I haven't hooked up, it doesn't run the application of the game through the game's main application. So certain things that are available only in the game, like the camp menu functionality, the deck builder scroller stuff, the backworkers are not compiled with definition editor. It uses its own main application file, but everything is designed as modules. So the game itself, like the game logic, is one class, and the game application is just kind of plugging that module into itself. And so what's happening with the definition editor is that it's, I gotta restart this, is that it's compiling the game and then it's nesting it as a module within itself when I go to test it. Okay, let's go back. Actually, I shouldn't have to go here. All we did was change the type, so we can just go back to testing it. Yeah, so this piece here is actually an instance of the game view class, and it's running in the definitions that are being defined through this thing's actual data. And you can actually look at the data. Here's the map data. This is kind of fun. So this is how maps are defined. It's just a bunch of numbers. All these are different layers. And what's fun is as I make changes, it'll actually update the numbers of our painting here. But anyway, let's get back to testing. Let's see. So you don't have to start the game and then go to the menu, then load cheats, etc. to test stuff. Oh yeah, cheat codes. Yeah, I have lots of, like, when I'm playing as myself, I embed all kinds of extra debugging things to make it easy. Like I'm playing against the AI, so I can like see the AI's cards. I can force it to show me where the surprises are, so I can see what they're testing. I can see their hand in real time. All kinds of fun different things. I can use my dev server for multiplayer if I want to just test things. Did that work? I actually can't tell if it did or not. No, it's still refusing to fire a bolt there. Alright, so there's something special about how that lightning bolt works that we have to figure out to get that to work. Okay, well we have 2 choices we can do next, alright? Because we haven't still completed Billy yet. We have choice 1 is we can continue to finish the functional abilities of Chain Lightning. Or choice 2 is we can finish the view of that bolt working. So either one needs to get done. Which would you like to do first? Waiting for responses. The game logic, get that bolt to hop to a few more characters, or do we want to get the bolt actually showing? I will take a swig of water. More hops. Okay, game functionality. I like it. All right, let's get more hops going. All right, so a couple things we need to think about with the hops. The first one is if we simply reuse the same trigger as is, we will effectively create an infinite loop. Let's try that because I think it would be fun to see it. And all we have to do that, to get more hops, is go back to Chain Lightning and reapply the status effect to the target, and that should make it hop forever until everything is dead. That's my hypothesis, but I don't know for sure. Apply status effect on the target, and it needs to be on the secondary target because you can't apply status effect to itself. Okay. Prepare for death. Uh-oh, what happened there? Why am I getting this hiccup? I got a bug. Even my bug reports also work in my own editor. I use the same bug report service, which is awesome. I have no idea what this bug is, and I don't care right now. So let's just carry on. I'm sure there's some kind of indexing thing with this scroller component I made that it doesn't like, but it shouldn't affect our test. Oh, it doesn't like something. What data providers? Okay, we're gonna restart it. I don't know what it's puking about, but it doesn't like something. When in doubt, reboot. Okay. What? Def attribute tags, filter tags. Okay. We did something wrong in the ability. I gotta go figure out what it is. Clearly, something about what I did here is not kosher with it. Yes. Okay. Why? Okay. I understand. Yeah. Programmers there, have you seen? I'm curious if you guys detected the error. I know exactly what the bug is there. So what's happening is that the definition is now recursively referencing itself. And so it's generating an infinite loop where it's attaching a chain lightning, and then when it builds definition, it's scanning the abilities and attaching another layer of it, and it just goes on and on. So it's actually created an infinite loop. I had anticipated the infinite loop for the chain killing the characters, but I had hoped that that would end once all the characters were dead because there would be no more valid targets. But I neglected to take into account that you can't self-reference a definition that creates an infinite definition of itself. So we're going to need a cleverer way to do this. Actually, it gives me an interesting idea for how we could control the lightning to not go on forever. We could just literally have a set number of hops and have a different ability for each one. It's kind of a long-winded way to do it. That may have to be how we do it unless I change something else in the code to prevent the recursive self-referencing. Oh, man. Okay, I'm thinking here. How can we do this? How can we do this? I think that might be the best way to do it. Let's remove this self-referencing thing. In theory, the exit condition is the editor dies. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. I think this is legal to do this. In fact, this may be really simple. If we want 3 hops of chain lightning, then this could be a really easy way to do it. Okay. Maps. Oops, sorry, wrong thing. Triggered abilities. Chain lightning. On a fix. Thank you for forcing me to get this chain lightning card out of the way. I honestly had not really thought about how to get that chain lightning to work before, but now it's almost within our grasp. Apply status effect. Chain lightning 2. Okay, so chain lightning 2, this should not be self-referencing because it's actually a unique effect. Let's see if that's okay. Maybe it'll still bug out. I don't know. Uh-oh. Maybe that's still creating a recursive loop somehow. Yes, I think it is. It doesn't like that. Okay. I think we also need to clone that triggered ability as well. Okay. Let's undo that. Come on, let me get back in there. All right, I'm sorry I've upset you thing. Actually, the problem is not here. The problem is that we need to create another chain lightning effect and then duplicate that. So let's just copy this. Yeah, let me do it. I should have removed it first. No, it's thinking. It's like, what do I do? Did it copy it? Let's see. It did. Good. Remove that. Chain lightning 2. Okay. Go back to SatisFX. This is also puking because it's like, how do I handle this infinite recursion of these definitions? I'm sorry, computer. It's almost over. The pain is almost over. No, it's this one we gotta fix. Yes, almost there. Okay, Chain Lightning 2. Save. Okay. You happy now? Let's see. Do 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 do. Ah!
Witness me!
Success! In hindsight, this spell seems like a great one to show off the editor's components and capabilities. Indeed. Well, it's all problem solving, which is fun. Like I said, the editor is in fact a full-on programming system in itself. Let's just watch it again. Boom, boom, boom. Aha!
Witness me!
Does it make sense that Chain Lightning would bounce back to itself if there's a valid target? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how we would exclude it from a target so it couldn't bounce back to itself. They would have to like, oh man, somehow probably use another kind of flag, like a temporary attribute or something like that, that keeps track of everyone who's been zapped by lightning, quote unquote, so far. And then when the action chain completes, dispose of all those lightning bolt chains so that it can't go back to the original target. So yeah, that can be fixed too. There's always a way to fix something. Sometimes people ask me like, can you do this? The answer to that question is yes, something can always be done. It's more or less how much work is involved and is it the right decision to be doing it and investing the time in it. That's really what it comes down to with anything program-wise. Let's add some more units. And it's only going to bounce twice, or it's going to have 3 bolts because we only have 2 of those abilities. But if I make him... I wonder if it'll bounce that guy because he's not on the same team or not. So he's a neutral team, and it made it so the bolt has to target the same team. So let's make him on the same team. Go to test units. There you go. Make him the same team. There we go. That is a Chain Lightning right there.
Witness me!
All right. Hello! Hello, Imzakorla. Nice to have you on the stream. We are in the process of designing a new card. Clever Name had suggested a spell that bounces to a bunch of different targets, and it made me think of the Chain Lightning spell, which we had already kind of created art for, but hadn't implemented, so we're trying to apply his mechanics to that. And so this is us working with the tools we have created for the game to build the game with, trying to make that ability happen. As you can see, we have successfully got to do what it does, although the description needs some work. I'm not quite sure how to describe it yet, but boom, boom, boom.
Witness me!
Oh, that was interesting because technically, in this case, when I fired it at him, this guy was the closest, and then he was the closest to him, so it went back and forth rather than jumping to him. Interesting. If I shoot at this guy, he's the closest, and then he's the closest to him. So it's actually following the rules of what it's supposed to do, which is kind of fun. Player-wise, I don't know if I understand how it's working yet, but yeah, that's interesting. Kind of a fun spell. It has a lot more versatility than regular lightning bolt because depending upon where characters are clustered, you could definitely, you know, I know for sure in this case if I go here, it's going to go him, him, him. Let's watch. And if I shoot at this guy, it's going to bounce between those two. Interesting.
Witness me!
Witness me! Okay. All right. So what's next? We have here's your 2 choices in our choose your own adventure of how we develop this. We can continue to hone the functionality of Chain Lightning. So for example, maybe we don't want it to bounce between the same targets. Maybe we do. I don't know. That's the first thing we need to answer. And then once we know the answer to that, do we fix that, or do we get the lightning bolt to actually show the graphic between each of the targets it's zapping? Up to you guys. Let me know. The lightning gets stuck in a valley. So do we like the functionality of the Chain Lightning as is, or should it be unique target so it can't bounce between the same 2? Probably unique targets. Okay. Probably unique targets. That probably would make sense. Okay. So we want unique targets for the chain lightning. All right. And let us think. How am I going to do that? All right. So we need some way to exclude the targets, right, from the entire thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a... Oh, did it do something I didn't like? I've seen this bug before. I'm not sure why. There must be something... Oops, that's the game. Something I'm doing when I exit out that way that I didn't like. All right. So we're going to create a new attribute. And I can just make up attributes. That's what's cool about this. The editor, by the way, is another great effect. The editor edits itself. So if I want to create new things, it will then pull those things into other areas of the toolbox. So for example, I want to create a new type of character or a new type of terrain. I can make those, and then they will then appear in the appropriate editor that would use those things, which is kind of cool. So we're going to edit the editor. We're going to create a new trait. We're going to make a new flag, I guess I would call it, because it's going to be something specific. I try to keep these things kind of categorized so I can follow what they did. Flagged, chained. Okay. All right, and save that. So basically, I just create a new type of attribute, and now we're going to go back to the. Let's see. There's a couple ways we could do this. We could put the chained on that status effect, or we could do. I think the best way to do it is to modify the attribute on the character, or maybe the status effect. I'm not sure now. Do I want to put the attribute on the status effect and then just remove all the status effects at the end when the chain is complete, or do we remove the status effects otherwise? Because I'm thinking ahead to how we might solve the lightning bolt problem too, and that might be an easy way to do it. Is just remove the keep the chain on the status effect until the whole chain is complete, then just removed all the chain lightning bolts all at once. I think that's how we're going to do it. We're going to change up the functionality a little bit. So what we're going to do is go into here. I'm going to create an attribute. I'm going to add a trait to this thing. So as I said, it edits itself. Yep. Chained is 1. Add. So now there's the new attributes on that, and we're going to make this chained as 2. Okay, so now they're both chained. Okay. So the first character gets this one put on it, the second character gets that one put on it, and then it doesn't matter what the next one gets. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go back to triggered abilities. Chain lightning on FX. No, sorry, not this one. No, this is the right one. Okay. So now we want to make it so now here's a cool thing. When you have status effects on something, the status effect will inherit or the traits of the character will inherit any traits that are on status effects on them. So that's how like the modifiers work. I've got a +1/+1 modifier on somebody. When it calculates a unit's attributes, it factors in all of the status effects attributes stacked onto it. So we can now go into target subject, target, trait, flag chained is less than or equal to number 0. Okay, so if it's already been chained, exclude it. Okay, now right now it's still not going to work because we are removing the status effect on the primary target. See, so ain't gonna like that. So we're going to get rid of that. And the reason is that I think what we're going to do is when the chain lightning ends, we're going to, oh, see, now I'm thinking about this other problem. If it doesn't actually complete all the chain lightning bolts, then it's going to have a problem. Thinking about this. How are we gonna remove this otherwise then? Maybe we do have to put it on the character. If I do flag chained is less than or equal to 0, when am I removing the status effect now? Because I can't remove it now. I've got to wait to remove it with the next one. But we need to guarantee that it's removed at some point. So if there's nothing to chain to, it gets removed. Yeah, maybe we need to chain it on the attribute user itself. I think we may need to. So let me think here. When I apply the status effect to the character, do we then set the chained attribute to that character at that time? Well, we already know the first character can't chain to himself. So it's going to apply the status effect chain in the next character. Let's think here. At some point, we have to clear all these chained flags so that they're all gone. I'm trying to think about when that would happen. It's almost like we would have to remove the chain effect at the end of the entire after this event has triggered, after the end of the next command. We may need to apply another status effect to clear all the flags when this is done. That's how we're going to do it. Okay, we're not going to remove this for now. We're going to keep this here. Remove this. Chain lightning 2 cannot be used on someone that's already chained either. So target subject traits. Target. Traits. Chained is less than or equal to 0. Okay. And I'm not going to remove this one. Probably is okay. We'll leave that one there. Let's just see if this works. Can remove the chain lightning status from all characters on the map? Yes, we can. That's exactly how we're going to solve it. But the question is, something has to trigger that, and that's what we're going to come back to. Let's just test this first part. I think we're going to have another special condition just to remove the chains after it's all done. This is probably one of the most complex spells we've built so far. Okay. Okay, we do have to have that chained on him because it did apply. Oh, actually, you know what? I know why I did that. It shouldn't have applied it to him because he should not have been an ability user. Huh. Oh. No. How did this... How was he able to... Oh, it's to remove the status effect. Interesting. Okay. Remove. Okay. Okay, so now it should not chain between the two of them. It will stop after the first one. And it still did it twice. Why? Oh, it's interesting. Okay, it's actually working. It's just that animation is firing because of the issue is the animation itself. Yeah, okay. And this leads me to how we're going to fix this problem as well. Okay, just checking my chat here. Can you remove the chain lightning status? Okay, so we got the chain, so it's not bouncing anymore. All right. But the other problem is that chain status is still on them. That triggered ability is still on them. I'm gonna verify that by adding a status effect that shows chainy. Let's see. Because I just want to verify that effect's still on them. We're gonna have to have a way to remove that effect at the end. Otherwise, we won't be able to do multiple status effects. In fact, let's go ahead and let's give ourselves some more chain lightnings. And we don't need this anymore. Remove that and that. Okay, so we should still see this. Yep, there's a status effect for chain. So technically, this second bolt won't chain to anybody. And it did not. Okay, that's what we expected. Okay, so we're going to need a way to remove that chain status effect after all this is done. So to do that, trying to think how we would do that. We need another triggered ability that removes stuff on the end of the first one. Okay, so there's a certain triggered ability for that. remove status on interact. I'm trying to think of what the right command is for this. There's a command that will remove at the end of start of ability. What's the event we need? It's basically once the entire command stack is cleared, we want to remove all of those chained temporary effects from the board is what we need to do. Okay. I'm trying to think if this is the right one. That's command. Oh, that will be the next command. I'm not sure if that'll fire there. And remove status effect on attacker place. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it only deals damage as expected. Okay. Source unit removed. Okay, I'm not certain what the event is yet, but I know there's an event that will deal with this. So we're going to copy this. Okay, we're going to say remove chains on stack end. Okay. And this is going to target action default. Oh, this is command. Oh, geez. I'm going to need some kind of event for this thing. Let's see here. But I need some way to reference that this is all happen. What's the right event for this? Attack complete, add to grid. Okay. This is where I'm stuck because I'm not quite sure what event it's going to need to be. Game start, interact, losing control. Something that says when all those lightning bolts are done. Oh, wait. Let me think. Maybe it's not a trigger ability at all. Maybe we just need to use an action. Let's see. Trying to think of how that could work. Because I could have another action that just fires that removes them all. The situation I'm stuck on is that we need to ensure that the chain gets removed even if no other arcs fire. Like my first thought was, we'll just make it so that on the last arc, we have it remove all those status effects, which would be really easy to do. But if the arc never arcs, then the status effects are never getting removed. So there needs to be something else that's going to handle removal of all those effects beyond that first action being fired. I'm trying to think if... Okay, maybe what we can do is, let's see, I have an idea. If I can use the command stack's property to itself, we're going to just make this, it doesn't even need to be a triggered ability. We're going to make this just a default action. Remove chains. Let's start with this. Remove status effect on target. Any status effect that meets the condition of target subject, target property def ID is equal to, no, not def ID, we need to use the attributes. Attributes equal to traits, sorry. Chained is greater than equal to number 1. Okay, so we're going to move all status effects with the train attribute on the board. Okay, I'm going to save this. We're going to go back to the spell for that. Chain lightning. And we're going to tell it to do this for us. Use spell triggered. Chain lightning. Okay. No, sorry, it's called remove chains. Remove chains. Probably should group all these things together so it's easier to find them. Okay, so the only thing is I don't know if this should go here or here, but that should put it in the stack order. Yes! Tornado and demons! Alright. we don't want that to be on target. That's the other problem. Shoot. Okay, save that. Go back to trigger abilities again. This is complicated. I'm just trying to think of how this thing works now, and it's really, you guys are really pushing me with this one. Okay, so I need to make that secondary target any status effect. Target flag, traits, chain lightning, greater than or equal to 1. Alright, I don't want this to be that. Let's just make this thing be attribute holder because it's going to throw a bug. When I use the use action effect, it's going to pass targets in from that other spell. So it's going to basically just do nothing to whatever the target is. I need this to be secondary target. It's going to ignore the primary target and just do that. Okay, let's test this. Not paints. Testing. And here we go.
Witness me!
Not sure what that thing in the middle there was. There must be some lingering effect I left down there.
Witness.
Okay, so a couple things. Triggered abilities, remove chains probably has some animation attached to it. It does. That's why we saw that effect. Okay, so let's go back to the actions again. I don't know if I'm able to get to work this way, but let's see if I move this one up one. So what's going to happen is that it's going to do this first, which is going to put this on the command stack. And then, but the command stack operates in last in, first out. So this is going to go on the stack first, and then this is going to go on the stack next, and then this will resolve first, then this. So I think that'll work. Let's see. Well, this, okay. Do the stat specs interact with the stack immediately? I will try to explain the stack in just a second once we test this. This is probably the most kind of confusing thing to program with this because the stack is like brain-numbingly weird to think about. Okay, and it never triggered that removal, which is interesting. Why didn't it re-trigger the removal? It should have at least... Okay, so the remove, that... Did that fizzle? Let's take a look at the log. Okay. Cast Chain Lightning resolve. He loses 3 life. Map remove chain. Why did remove chain never fire? Is a question I have. That's interesting. Map chain lightning 2 resolves. It should have fired that remove chain. For some reason it never did it. And I don't know why it never resolved that. Let's see if I do something else if it resolves. Ah, there it goes.
Witness.
Huh.
Witness me!
Okay. Death trigger buff allies remove. Chain lightning on affix resolves. Ice Queen uses remove chains on computer's acolyte. Remove chain resolves. So somehow that like ability, which should have been fired, didn't ever fire until that second instance there, and I'm not sure why that's the case. That should have worked. Okay, let's look at this again. Use action remove chains on target. It's almost like the command queue got stuck after that point, because it should have fired that remove chains on target at the end. Interesting. Thinking. How else can we get that thing to remove at the end? I need to remove all chains when this thing is completely resolved at the end. Okay. Yeah, that's tricky. Looking for maps. Let's take a look back over here. Let's think of this again. Get up there. 2. Okay, so that worked. Use chain lighting on trailing tube. Why did the remove chain never fire? I'm not sure if it's just stuck in the queue or what. Just play around to see if I can figure out if it's an issue of it getting stuck inside the... And it's weird that it fired there. So I'm guessing it has invalid targets, although it will report in here if there's a reason why it'll say fizzled, because then that's how I know that it just never had targets for it or whatever. Interesting. Let's go take a look at another thing here. Let's see. Chain lightning, remove chains. Let's see if there's any other weird things with that remove chains. It never even said it fired it, which is strange. Oh! Yeah. Remove that. Let's see if it works now. Okay. Ah, there we go. It worked. Success! Hey, it's Meltros. Welcome to the stream, my friend. We are designing new cards together as a community of players and developers. This is the definitions editor, the tool I built to build Summoner's Fate. And I asked, we did a first one. We programmed the Alkalite character here and got his sound effects and stuff working. I'll go ahead and demonstrate that because it's fun. Let's
Witness me.
Yes, Acolyte is a new card. Yeah, we started the stream by implementing that card. So, you know, I guess the kind of art style kind of looked like Mad Max style graphics, and so one of the people from the stream on Summoner Sunday suggested giving him this goofy power that makes him yell "Witness me" and then gives all of his allies a buff when he dies. So we started the stream by implementing his ability, and I kind of took through the process of how we coded it, and then I even recorded the audio and put the audio in the game, and now he works. And then I asked viewers if they had any ideas for what card design next, and then we had Clever here gave me a real challenge and wanted the chain lightning spell implemented, and that's probably one of the most difficult spells to implement because of the way the logic has to work with it. And we are currently attempting to build it using the building blocks we have available within our toolbox here. And we just had some success getting the chain lightning to no longer bounce between the same two characters, as you can see here. That final animation there is the lightning effect being removed, and we can probably remove that status effect thing there now. So cool. That idea to use the command stack worked perfectly for eliminating the status effect at the end. And instantly, I now have an idea for how we can... I will definitely be using the chain lightning. Oh, won't we all? It's such a good spell. It's so satisfying to see those bolts. Okay, so to finish the chain lightning now, we got to get it so that that bolt actually appears arcing between those characters, and right now we're having issues with that. And while we were working, I kind of the back burner of my brain was thinking, how can we get that to function? And I think the easiest way to get it to work is just to make that animation target the primary target. But I'll need to make an adaptation to our targeting algorithm for that to work. So we're going to go change a couple things. The first thing we're going to go and change is go back to the chain lightning status effects. And I want to make it so that instead of this being a secondary target, this will now be the primary targets. And the way we're going to do that is go to, this instead of being the status effect, we no longer target that. We're going to target the action default. This is going to be visible unit, and I'm basically going to replicate the targeting here. And the reason I'm moving this to the primary targeting is because the lightning bolt animation is designed to arc to the primary target, not the secondary targets. And that's, so we've either got to change the animation of the lightning bolt or change the targeting. And now that the status effect's no longer being removed via the targeting here, it's easier to just leverage existing animation. We're going to change the targeting to work. So we're going to go target property team is equal to target subject ability user team. This is why chain lightning is so hard, because of all these different things. New target subject target is not equal to target subject. Probably don't even need this condition, to be honest with you. Let's just, because it's going to be chained, so it can't chain to itself. So let's just add the chained. Target subject target property traits property flag chained is less than or equal to number 0. Okay, and we don't need any of this, so let's get rid of that. Okay, now we do the same thing with the other chain lightning. Visible unit. Oh, sorry. One more thing we got to change here is closest, and target count is 1. So the issue we need to programmatically change is that currently primary targeting won't auto-designate unless the target count is not equal to 1. So I'm going to have to do some changes to make it so that this method of auto-target designation will in fact work, because right now I don't think it will. We'll test it, but I don't think it's going to work without the change. Okay, visible unit closest 1 and target subject target property team not equal to target subject ability user property team. And then the next thing we're going to do is target subject target trait chained is less than or equal to 0. So you can't chain to someone who's already been chained to. Okay. Don't need that. And this should now be action default. Okay. Okay. So we're going to move along and go to the maps again and test this. And my theory is it won't work, because it should not be able to acquire targets with that method the way it is. Okay, that was expected, because it can't auto-acquire targets when the target count is 1. So I have to change my rules for how auto-designated targeting works to include if a target random method is set, then it has to include a target. Okay? Excellent. Now, while I'm going to go into the code, if anyone would like to help me out, we definitely need a better way to describe what this ability does. So I need some better card text to explain how chain lightning works. And it's got to be succinct and able to fit on the card in 3 to 4 lines max. So if you guys want to help me out and come up with a way to describe in a nice, clean way what this card does, so that when we're finished we can go back and change the card text, that would be awesome. Again, I just gotta stop looking over there, because you guys are over there and I'm over here. All right, but that's what I need help with. So think of some ideas for how to word this card, and we'll come back to that while I jump into the code to figure out how we're going to fix that targeting. Okay, so code-wise, the chain lightning can be, this. It doesn't matter what this is. Let's change it back to blast, because that's probably fine as it is. The animation is not the problem. The problem with the code is the way targets are acquired. So I need to figure out how I'm going to find that thing. It's going to be def. Okay, targeting method. And this is count. That's the thing that's a problem. I gotta figure out where I'm detecting all these changes right now. Yeah. Okay, see. This is the condition that determines designation of all, and I need to figure out probably the best way to do it would be to change this logic to exist in the definition itself. I don't know why that didn't occur to me before. That would probably make this check a lot easier. Yeah, designate all. Okay. So what we need to do is okay. Interesting how this is developing itself here. Okay. So we're going to have a new property that says auto designate. For some reason, I don't know why the performance on this is running really slow right now, but that's kind of annoying. I typed it really slow. All right, private var auto designate. Eesh. Something's going on here that's making this thing run really slow. Maybe it's the stream. I don't know why this thing is so performance demanding to type a text in there. I should try closing it all down and reopening. I don't know. Yeah, this is even scrolling really slow. I'm going to close this down real quick just because for some reason that is running non-usably slow. And I'm hoping it's just a glitch. Let's maybe close this down too. Maybe I'm using too many resources on my computer. I don't know. Uh-oh. Did my stream freeze? Oh. There we go. Yeah, I think I was using too much memory. Let's close this down. Okay. Let's close this down. Okay, that should help. And 2 closest targets from original target. Okay, those are good descriptions so far. Oh, that's a lot of targets. Closest units from original target. Memory leak while creating infinite loops. I'm not sure if it was a memory leak or just my system RAM got clogged down because of the multiple things running here. But it still looks like it's running slow, actually. Let's see, can I type now? Okay, now we're back to normal now. Okay, good. All right, let's go back to that thing. Close all this down. Okay, so we were basically gonna create a new way to define whether auto-designated targeting has worked. That's the condition we need to fix. So I had just added auto-designate. Okay, and then we're gonna have a accessor for that. Return auto-designate. Okay. All right. So I like to strong type all of my types and definitions. Essentially, when these things are all stored as data, it's just a bunch of strings and string value pairs that are stored in a SQLite database. When the game reads the definitions in, it converts them into objects which are strong typed. This is one of the types. The targeting is a type of object. This controls all the properties of targeting, and then the logic can then interpret it. Recursive and excellent. Yes, it did. It was recursive within the definitions because the definitions were self-defining. One of the ways that determines what assets the game needs is it'll recursively go through all the definitions used and hunt down all the named graphics that it needs to rasterize so that when the game loads, it only loads the graphics it needs for that particular set of combinations of abilities and cards and level assets. So it's very, very efficient how the game actually works behind the scenes. Okay, I've added that property. Now we need to set that property. And what I need to do is come up with some conditions. So if this, okay, the conditions for auto designate. If this dot method type, target type. I'm trying to think what these method types are. Okay. Okay, if this dot random type not equal to type target random, is that the thing I use? Dot none. Auto designate equals true. Okay, there we go. The other condition for this is actually or count is equal to 0. And it's also auto-designate. Okay. All right. That should work. Now I got to go and find all the places where I check that current count and change all those places in the code. So this is pretty big refactoring. As you can see, there's a lot of things that I potentially reference here. But it's probably good that I have the logic for this auto-designate in one place anyway. So this should no longer be that. It should be if the auto-designate is true. This is why I love using Flash Builder, because I can instantly find all the places where I may have used this code and change it all at once. Okay, so this should be auto-designate. I don't need to say true there, that'll evaluate to true. If it's auto-designate. Make sure I didn't miss any of them. Yep. Okay, this is called refactoring. We are refactoring this code to function according to a new format of style, I guess. I don't know how to describe it better. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, I got a few places here. Okay, if primary target count not equal to 1, that would be, so if auto-designate. If, okay, secondary targeting, we don't have to change that. It's just the primary targeting we're concerned about here. What's going on here? Oh. Oh, okay, that's right there. That's fine as is. Oh, interesting. Here's a place where I had count is equal to 0. Passes targeting attributes. I'm not sure if that implies secondary targeting or not, but we're going to go ahead and do targeting def dot auto designate as well there. Okay, next. Not equal to 1, auto designate. Almost there. Something about the, back to this thing again. Count is greater than 0. That's fine. Less than count. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. All right, those are all the places it was affected. Let's just double check I got them all. All right, so that's fine. That's not conditional. Basically, we needed to tell the program that if it's using an auto-designated target, then, okay, let's recompile. So the lightning bolt arced to his computer. Yes, it did. It fried the computer. Well, it fried the definitions editor anyway. It was like, no, I can't handle this awesomeness. Okay. So now my theory is that not only will the lightning bolt work again, but we should see the arc happening between the characters. And it should be pretty exciting. Okay, here we go. So it's a small code change. Ah, it still didn't work. No! It was supposed to work! Ah! It zapped that thing! That's what was happening. Okay, let's see if I put it over here. Will it work there? That one zapped my guy. Interesting. I wonder why that's happening. What is going on here? It wants to zip everybody but him. You know what? Get rid of that thing. I understand why it's targeting that thing. What do you have to do with anything? Get out of there. It's like refusing to target the other guy. Intriguing. Silly bench, you're not even a character. You don't even have a face. Yeah, that's right. Get out of my way, bench. Okay, well, we fixed one problem and introduced another. I have no idea why it's doing that now. That's intriguing. Okay, let's go back and look at the logic there. I'm very puzzled by that. Okay, so let's go look at chain lightning again. Oh. Ah, yes, that would explain why. And we also need we didn't when I converted these things over, we didn't do it right. It was supposed to be equal, not equal to. So it was basically forcing it to do that. And we also need to make sure that the target is actually a character, not an object. So let's go back to traits, flag, unit, type unit is true. Type unit greater than or equal to number 1. Okay. Okay. Good. And same thing over here. Looks like this one was working, which is why we didn't see multiple bolts. But I do need to make sure this one is also a valid unit. Target. Oh, that's right, because if it's equal to the ability user's team... Okay, we actually don't need that other condition. Go back. Go back. We don't need that. This was the wrong problem. Okay, now we should be good. Let's test it out. Okay, here we go. Yes! We've got lightning bolts working. Now let's put some more characters in there. Let's make him on the enemy team. Okay. Interesting. What happened here? Why did that happen? Why is it only bouncing to 2 targets? Dang it! We're still not there! My guess is something to do with that stack, but now, see... That shouldn't have affected the stack, because the stack just removes the chains. That shouldn't be affecting the target. Something wrong with that third bolt. Let me go look at that triggered ability again. Something's not right with that other bolt. Alright, so chain lightning 2. Maybe he didn't equal his team. Let's just check one more thing. Maybe I didn't do something right here. I don't know. Maybe I didn't change it to that guy's team. That could be why. Let's just give him another teammate. Here, you can have another acolyte. There you go. No, definitely something wrong with this. Bolt 1, bolt 2. The third bolt is not lifting off. Why? Why is it not? No, the troll has armor. Okay. Let's see here. Chain lightning. So the first bolt worked as expected. The second bolt did not. Why didn't it work? Okay. Okay. Oh, that's why. We forgot to remove that condition. Okay. Sometimes when you change things around, you forget to clean up after yourself. That's why I always check things twice. That's why I always test things thoroughly before it goes into the game. All right. Boom. No! Why? Damn it! Okay, let's check again. Oh, that condition should have been there actually. We did want that. Event activator. That condition was valid. Event activator. Oh no, hang on. Yeah, that is right. Okay, event activator. Sorry, trigger subject. Event activator is equal to trigger subject ability user. Event source. Could it be that it's removing it before that ever fires? In which case that would explain it. Because on the stack order of things, this other event couldn't fire yet. But see, this one should have triggered that on the stack. I thought that would work. Let's go back and look at the logs and see. I think it's an issue of the removals happening before that last bolt gets fired. Take a look here. Okay. So here's where we cast Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning on affix triggers. Use Chain Lightning on affix. Chain Lightning on affix resolve. Uses remove chain. So the remove chain happened, and that would have prevented the other thing from. But see, then the affix should have still been. All right, let's just confirm first if it's this. I find it odd it would be this, but we're going to remove this. So remind me to put this back when we're done. It's not doing damage on the second bounce. Oh no! Curse you, chat latency. Okay, good to know. We're going to take a look at that too. Something is afoot here. All right, so let's remove this to see if that fixes the bounce. Let's see if we get 3 bounces now. We're going to figure this out. 1, 2. Okay, so that was not the cause of the bounce being broken. Something else is happening. And you're right, that second bounce caused no damage. Why? That's very strange, isn't it? Chain lightning. Oh, aha! I see the problem. We forgot to change these to primary target. Actually, they can just be target now. We were still referencing secondary target, which is null, so these didn't do anything. That is why it was happening. Okay. See, I was just not very neat about those changes I made last round. All right, let's go back and put the removal on there. Chain lightning. Okay, use action. Triggered. I want to use chain. Remove chains, right? Remove chains. Okay, and that goes back up there. Okay. All right, let's see here. I think this should not work. Bam, bam, bam. No! Still didn't work. It did damage that time. That's a starter. Okay. Remove chains. Okay, we'll go back and remove that thing again. We'll figure this out. Apply status. Okay, get rid of this thing. Feels odd that would be the cause of it, because it would have just kept bouncing. It shouldn't have triggered that until it did the other one. Something else is wrong. 1, 2. Yeah, something else is wrong. Okay. That second bolt still has a problem, and I don't know what it is yet. Okay. Okay. Ah, I see it. It's the trigger. This should be ability source, not event source. It's always the programmer's fault when something doesn't work, never the program. The computer is blameless. Okay, so once again, we're going to test it. It should bounce 3 times, and we still got to go back and put the removal in there. and then we should be good. Yay! 3 bounces and it arced them all. Look at that. Now it won't work the second time. I know, well, because this won't work though.
Witness me.
How did that? I'm not sure how that worked, but okay. Let's go back and add that other removal into there again. Chain lightning, new. Give her that. Type. Use action. Triggered. Remove chains. On target. Yep, and that has to go right there. Okay, and then the last thing, we don't need to have that goofy effect happening on the remove chain, so let's get rid of that. We don't need to see that little thing happen. Remove chains. Let's get rid of that. And that. This doesn't need to have any kind of effects. Okay. Alright, now it should look nice.
Witness me.
Alright, let's see. Every computer problem ever is the fault of some human somewhere. Yes. Don't say that out loud. The Overlord AI will hear you. Yes, but the Overlord AI is the fault of that one guy who decided to play God. Yes, so true. All right, so it looks like we got the bolts working now.
Witness me.
Like I said, it looks pretty cool, but I have one little problem left with it, and I'm going to explain it, and then we're going to see if we can fix it. So notice that the bolt kind of has delay in the jump. A lightning bolt wouldn't just kind of sit there and wait. You know, you want to have that chain lightning be like, you know, arc instantly, because lightning would bolt instantly, right? And so to fix that, the reason it's doing that is that the animation system is designed to wait for other dependencies to complete before it triggers the next one. So in order to get that to have that nice effect, like when I showed that Seeker Barrage earlier, in fact, I'm gonna put the Seeker Barrage back in the deck, just so the folks that are just coming in now can see what that spell looked like, which was using the same principle we used to build the Lightning Bolt Seeker Barrage. Yeah, this one. Okay. So when I originally built the Seeker Barrage, it had the same problem where it didn't feel very fun because the bolts were sort of waiting until each damage had resolved before the next bolt was fired. And what makes the spell fun to cast is that you want that like rapid fire, like you're unloading a machine gun on somebody, is what makes it fun to play the card. And I feel like with a Chain Lightning spell, you would expect it to go bounce, 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 right? Not the this like slow delayed hop. Okay, so that's a change we need to make in the actual animation itself. And where we're going to do that is HM Arcane Missile Animation. I honestly don't remember what the actual trigger I used to do it was. This. We need to add this complete chain firing to that. That's interesting. How does this private function work? Complete chain. Who fires this? Ah, I see. Okay, so we need to add this code to our chain lightning. And this should make it so the chain lightning is nice and chain lightning animation. So this is overriding the animation. This is basically telling the animation system to be overridden so that it's going to go ahead and fire it directly and make that nice barrage feeling. And we will have to republish it for that. But that should get the lightning bolt finished. All right, I think we've got this. I think we've got it. Feeling good about this. It's interesting. The stream is, oops, I didn't mean to do that. The stream definitely eats up memory on this computer. Close this down. Okay. Maps. Interesting. Oh, okay. That is because the first animation did not use chain lightning animation. There we go. That's much better. See the feeling of that? That's much more fun. That's how I'd expect chain lightning to work. Kind of a weird thing happening with that troll though.
Witness me. Witness me.
Much more lightningy. Yes, much better indeed. That's a good lightning. There we go. So that feels pretty good. And again, these effects aren't final. We're going to make that lightning bolt a lot more impressive. Get some better particle effects on there, but just the feel of it should be a lot better. Let's change this to something else. I want to just see if that. Let's see here. There's a weird popping happening there. I'm not quite sure why that's happening. Something to do with the animation dependency completing, though. That's causing the animation to like jerk to its finished state there. I'm not quite sure what that is. That's going to take some digging to figure out why that's happening. The character should not be like jumping like that, but something is causing it to trigger a some kind of dependency is causing it to trigger. Oh, it's probably because of the it's using an ability inside of there. I thought I have cast as off, right? Trigger ability, chain lightning. Let's just take a look if there's any of those things I can notice in here. Nope, those are off. So that'll take some investigation to do, but I think that ability looks pretty good. At least it's functional now, which is important. It does what it's supposed to do. Okay, so we're going to clean up a couple more things with it. Oh, I think the lightning would make them jump. It's cool. Okay, well maybe it's not something we need to worry about then. Okay, so I wanted to make it so that we could make that lightning actually cascade its attributes down into the status effect. So what we don't want to do is, we don't want to hard code this remove this value of 3 here. We're going to save that, make this 1, and then save that. And then we're going to do the same thing here, make this 1, and then save that. And then I'm going to go into the spells, chain lightning, and what I want to do here is apply this as 3. Yeah. And that should still do the same thing. Okay. No, it did not. I'm not sure why it didn't do the same thing. Oh, it did. Let's see. No, the last one took 1. Why did the last guy take 1 damage? Ah, okay. Triggered abilities, chain lightning. Okay, make that 1. There we go. Now it should pass in the values. Save. Okay, let's verify that works. Oh, I couldn't see that one. Get down here. There we go. There we go. So now, the reason I like to do that is because that way, if we want to make this ability better in the future, I don't have to go and change them all. It just cascades the damage value down. Excellent. Okay, so we need to fix the text in the card, and then we should be done. Go back to spells and chain lightning. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go back and read the text here and see what you guys put down. Deals 3 damage to target and 2 closest targets from original target. Closest, that's a lot of targets. Deal 3 damage to a target enemy, deal 3 damage to 2 other visible enemies. Okay. Alright. I'm going to copy these down so I can have them in my scratch pad here. And we'll work on this together. 3 damage to a target enemy, deal 3 damage to 2 other visible enemies. Deals 3 damage to target and 2 closest targets from original target. Anyone else have any ideas for what to call this thing? That's it so far. Okay. Deal 3 damage to target enemy and 2 damage to other visible. Oh no, because it actually is dealing 3 damage to all of them. Deal 3 damage to 2 other visible. Oh, okay, I see. Deal 3 damage to 2 other visible. Okay, we want to take into the fact that it's the closest from the original target, so I like that. Deal 3 damage to enemy. Maybe we could say deals 3 damage to visible enemy and chains to the 2 closest. And I'm trying to think how we describe it. Chains. 2 closest targets. We want to explain that there's 2 chains. That's correct. Maybe we should say, so we get rid of the word target, we'll say deal 3 damage to visible enemy and chain to the closest visible targets. Let me see how this is again. And 2 closest targets from original target. Up to 2. Alright, deals 3 damage to visible enemy and up to 2 closest enemies from original target. Still reads a little weird, but I think that describes it. What do you guys think? Deal 3 damage to target enemy and chains to 2 more enemies. Ooh, I like that better. Chains to 2 more enemies. Yeah. And chains to 2 more enemies. Yeah. To 2 closest visible enemies, or to chains to 2 closest. I think that sounds pretty good. Other thoughts? Guys, look good? Well, do they have to be visible for the damage to fork them? Yes. In order to be forked, the lightning has to be able to see the target it's going to next. And we should test that, because I'm going to try putting a wall between a couple of them and see if it arcs or not. It should not. Let's keep the text there. Let me know if you guys come up with any other improvements. Oh, what we're also going to do here is I'm going to change this from functional to functional. Delete this little thing here, which doesn't need to be there. And now this card is officially going to be in the next release. So there we go. We can add that to the list of changes coming in the next release. Does 2 mana seem like the right cost for the spell? I didn't even think about that. So this spell has potential to deal up to 9 damage. Lightning Bolt currently costs 1 but does 2 damage. And it can hit more than 3 targets. That's probably right. With remainder of ticks, hits closest target. Okay. Hits closest targets. And how about we say chains up to 2. Deal 3 damage to visible enemy and chains and chain effect and chains up to 2 close enemies. And we should say chains. Oh, I have a keyword for chain. That's weird. Huh. I must have had that planned at some point. That's why that's appearing. I don't want to have to use a keyword though, because this is probably the only spell that'll use it. Let's just leave that as that. And chains up to 2 close enemies. Okay. All right. I would make this 4 mana. 4 mana? That's a lot of mana! I don't know if that 4 mana seems extreme, because you've got Explosive Fireball right now that could deal 5 damage, or sorry, is that 5 or 6 damage to a cluster area and do the knockback. I'd say it'd be maybe argument. I could see argument for 3 for sure. Okay, let's see. That's sweet. Okay, so we're gonna put some terrain in there and verify that it does in fact require line of sight. So I'm gonna do this. There. Yeah. I can't see her now. Get out of my way. Yeah, so it's just a regular lightning bolt if there's one target, but if you got a couple together, you can do that fun. Now let's see if I put her over here. Let's do a really fun thing. Let's see if I put him right there. Now I can see her. Oh, that's fun. I'm sure that'll drive people nuts trying to figure out how to target this thing. So do I want to go for, if I put him down just one space, does he still see him? Let's see. No, she's hidden now, so I only hit these 2. Cool. Yeah, 3 would be good. Okay. Excellent. Well, that was exciting. We did it. What if you can't see the angel, but the ogre can? Oh, that's a good question. It should work because the lightning is visible from him, but let's see if we can get that to work. Let's see, how would I get that set up? So let's put a wall right there. Okay. I cannot see the angel, but the troll can. Success! Electricity travels. That is an awesome spell. I never imagined it getting to be like that crazily fun to play this card. That's pretty gratifying. Yeah! Bolt it! I really want to amplify that shock effect. I feel like if we had a cool animation where the character's like shaking and you see like the skeleton showing or something fun, you know, for the brief time it's flashing, like that'd be a cool effect to add for like these shock spells. But already, that's pretty fun. Definitely delivers what it promises from a Chain Lightning. Well done. I appreciate the challenge. That was probably the hardest spell I could singly think of that to implement within the tools, but yet we were able to pull it off with just a couple of tweaks for the animation and the targeting. But I think that was pretty good. Pretty good. Yes. All right. Well, this was fun. I hope you guys had a good time. Just about out of time here, so we'll probably wrap it up. If you guys enjoyed this, I would certainly love to schedule a future session like this. And as I was saying before, with the way this definition editor works, as a non-code dependent, unless you're making code changes as we just did, but assuming we can get to a place where it's just pure content changes, we'll actually be able to do fun things like create a new card together. I can drop it onto the server. The next time you boot up the game, it'll upload the new version, and we can play test these things immediately. Some of the most satisfying moments I've had working on the game has been Peter and I, when we did a lot of testing for those starter decks currently in the game, we would go to Starbucks together and just sit down and balance test the game together and figure out, is it fun? Is it not fun? And when we discovered things like, the squirrels would be cool, but they all costed too much mana to get the squirrels out. So we just sat there and tuned it, sent each other the new file, and then retested it and got to a place where like, yeah, this feels really good. So I would love to have that kind of relationship with all of our players and give you guys the opportunity to do that. I think that the scope of what we've got here is beyond any one person, and that's why it takes community, and that's why I love our philosophy of community-driven development. And so, yeah, I mean what I say. I want to have you guys involved. I want to have you suggesting ideas. I want to see those ideas come to life and show you that I'm taking that philosophy seriously into the heart. So, yeah, it was fun. Thank you. If you have Firecaster and Icecaster, got to make that electrical summoner. Yes, electrical summoner. Yes, we have so many summoner candidates that could be electrical summoner. Indeed. Okay, well, guys, once again, I really appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to play some games later, I'm probably going to have lunch now. I can maybe hop on. We can do some battles. That sounds like a good plan. Thanks again for joining the stream, and until next time, Summoner's Fate! Did that stop the stream? Come on, Hotkey, do your thing. I don't think it's listening. Stop stream.